Physical activity is a key part of well-being and of being a human. In fact, we have to move physically in some way for our well-being. And I think often when we say physical activity, people immediately assume that we're talking about exercise. And just from the outset, then I want to be quite clear that I'm not talking about exercise in the sense of going to a gym or going for a run or a cycle or whatever, unless that's something that you want to do and enjoy. And if you think about it, the whole concept of exercise is actually quite a new thing in the great scheme of human beings. And it's only really come into play because our lives these days are relatively inactive. In days gone by, and not too long ago, a couple of generations ago, then life was much more physically demanding in terms of day-to-day activity. So we didn't have all the modern things that now make life so much easier for us. And the concept of exercise wasn't such a big thing. It's only come into play because the majority of people now spend most of their days sitting in a big comfortable chair, like so. So that is why the concept of exercise has become more to the forefront, because we don't move within our normal daily lives very much anymore for the most part. So why is it important that we move? Well, because that's how we're being designed to work for them. The very basic level, our bodies have evolved and designed to move. We're not static creatures. We're meant to think on it from an evolutionary point of view. We would have walked for miles to collect water. We would have had to hunt animals for food. We would have had to have gone out and harvested foods and gathered crops. We would have to physically move to get things that we eat. It's only now because we have our phones and we can sit on our couch and order everything we need without even getting up, other than to perhaps answer the door, and even then there's ways around that these days as well. So humans are meant to move. Our bodies are designed to move, and it's a key component of our well-being, because if we don't move, then it disrupts everything. Our whole physiology is based around the fact that we are physically active creatures. Now, as I said, I'm not talking about going to a gym or hiking up a mountain or doing any of these things, unless that's something that you enjoy. But I'm talking about just moving in daily life. And often when we're living with pain or other persistent symptoms, we move less and less. And then we become less and less able to move. And it becomes a real vicious cycle. It feeds itself. And it's really, really important to try and make one small increase in movement. And however little that may be, it's a bit more than you were doing in the past. And that's the first step forward into moving and being more physically active. Now, obviously, it very much varies on where someone is starting from. If somebody can't get out a chair, then our option might be to move something slightly further away. So say you're someone who sits in a chair and you struggle to get out of the chair without assistance, and you have everything placed around very close to you so you don't have to reach. Well, perhaps something that would be safe that for you to reach a bit further for could move slightly further away. So when you want that thing, you have to stretch your arm a wee bit further to reach it, rather than having everything strategically placed really close to you. Perhaps if you're someone who is mobile and you're walking about, you could take the longer route around the house, or you could go up and down the stairs an extra time if you have to take something up the stairs, or something like that. Anything like that at all. If you're someone who's out and about, could you walk a wee bit further? Could you take a slightly longer route to the shop? Could you take a slightly longer route to pick your child up from school? Could you walk around taking the car? All these different things might seem tiny, tiny things, but if you can add them into your day, then they actually make a difference over time. I'm not saying you're going to do it once and you'll suddenly feel amazing. You do it once, you go, that was quite hard, actually, I've increased that there. But actually, I increased it and it was okay. It wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't a major life change. It didn't make a major difference to my day, but I'm moving a wee bit more. And there was a great phrase, I can't actually remember who it was that said it now, and we hear all these things saying that exercise is an antidepressant. And that's why we need to move more. And he said, well, it's not actually that exercise is an antidepressant, but it's that not moving is a depressant. So it's not that there's some magic power in exercise that takes away feelings of low mood, but it's the fact that when we don't move, our mood lowers. Because, as I said, we have been created and evolved to be physically active creatures. And I appreciate when we're living with persistent pain and other symptoms, then it can be very, very hard. The thought of being physically active is sometimes just too much. And that's why I'm saying if you can make one small change to increase how much you move, whatever part of your body it is that you can move, if there's one part of your body you can move, try and move it a wee bit more than you did yesterday. So that will vary for wherever you're starting from. But I know when I had fibromyalgia and I was in a lot of pain, I'd started to move less and less and less. And I was looking back now, I can see that how that happened. It was sore to move, so I didn't want to do it, so I did it less. But by doing that, I was becoming more and more deconditioned. So physically, I was less able, and psychologically, I was then became more fearful of moving because I was thinking, it's going to be an effort, it's going to be sore, expecting it to be sore, expecting it to be an effort. And it did become sore and an effort. And no denying that was the case. But actually making that decision to say, well, actually, what one thing can I do today? How could I move a little bit more than I did yesterday? Then that's you on the first step to moving a little bit more again, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And that's how change happens. All of the changes we're talking about making in terms of lifestyle medicine are about making one small change. And that builds and it builds and it builds. And it's not about aiming high and saying, right, at the minute I can't get out of a chair without assistance and I'm going to walk for 5 miles. Have that as your ultimate goal if you want, but all you have to work on right now is getting up from that chair a bit easier. And that would make a massive difference to your life if you get out of a chair a bit easier. But you've got to start where you are. So think what you're doing right now and think what one thing you could do that would add in a wee bit more movement into your day. So we're not talking exercise. Think of it as being a movement or physical activity. That's all we're talking about, is just moving something a wee bit more than you did. And that, I say, is different for every person. It depends where you're starting from. But hopefully that takes away some of the fear around physical activity. And I think, as I say, it can be very off-putting for people, particularly if you've got pain or other persistent symptoms, or you haven't been moving very much for whatever reason. The thought of exercise or activity can be quite scary, and often people are put off coming to see people like myself, physiotherapists, and they think, they're going to make me sore and do all these exercises. Well, that is not really what it has to be about. We're really meant to move, and actually the more we can move naturally, the better, rather than saying, oh, I've got to do 10 quads exercises and 5 calf raises or whatever it is. That's not how we're designed to move. And actually what I find when working with people, the more I can get people to move without thinking about it, the more we can actually just move naturally and functionally and for a purpose, the better. Because it's the more we focus on, oh, I've got to do that exercise, I can really feel it in my knee. That makes it far worse, because it's not a natural thing for us to be doing. What is natural is for us to get up and walk and pick something up, or to get down the floor and have a look at whatever it is we need there, and then stand back up again. For us to, to reach up for a cupboard, to reach up to a branch of a tree, to do these kind of things. These are all natural things, and when we do these kind of things, particularly when we're living with persistent pain, we find that the pain doesn't increase to the same degree as when we're asking someone just to do a particular exercise. If I ask you to raise your arm 5 times for no reason other than you have to raise your arm 5 times because the physio told you to, it's a fair chance that's going to be harder for you than if there was 5 things for you to hit in the air, 5 balloons coming at you. I can almost guarantee that most people will do that far easier than if they were just raising their arm 5 times, because movement should be meaningful. So that's why I'm saying whatever movement you can do right now, what can you do to make it a wee bit more challenging, a wee bit further, or to add in a wee bit more to it? And it's a meaningful movement for you. It's meaningful activity, and it's not just randomly exercising for the sake of it, because that's not what we're talking about here. If you love to go for runs and cycles, scale mountains, that's fine. Carry on, and that's great, because that's something you enjoy, and that's giving you pleasure and benefits that's giving you. But what we're talking about here is any physical activity, making movement meaningful and purposeful and beneficial to you all round. Okay, I hope that gives you a wee insight into physical activity. It doesn't have to be exercise. You don't have to think of it in these kind of terms. It's about making your life and your well-being easier, and purposeful movement that actually has some benefit to you, rather than just some arbitrary exercise that the physio's given you. Okay, any questions at all, as always, just send me a wee message. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, bye for now.